Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We are reaching people globally. Welcome to the 36th Emerging Growth Conference. I'm Anna Berry. I'll be your host today. As always, we have an exciting list of companies and a wide range of growth sectors presenting to you today. Just a few notes. All of our conferences, they're uploaded to the Emerging Growth Conference YouTube channel. So please subscribe. That's youtube.com/Emerging Growth Conference. Now today we'll be running until about 2 p.m. Eastern time. And remember, when we switch to the next company, there might be a black screen for a moment. Don't go anywhere. That's just us moving over to the next presenter. But if you do experience downtime, refresh your browser and then everything should work properly again. Our platform does work best on Google Chrome. So if you're watching from an Apple device, you have to hit the play button to start the session. Now, during each company's presentation, you can submit questions through our webcast module, and we'll try to address as many of these questions at the end of their presentation. One last note. After today's event, you'll be redirected to the registration page for our next conference. So please stay on or come back to reserve your spot early. Today, we have 4 companies presenting, so let's jump right in. Please welcome ACME Lithium, Inc. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol ACLHF and on the CSE under the symbol ACME, and is a mineral exploration company focused on acquiring, exploring, and developing battery metal projects in partnership with leading technology and commodity companies. Please welcome its CEO, Steve Hanson. Welcome, Steve. How you doing today?
Hi, Anna. Good to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing your presentation, so the floor is yours.
Great. Well, I appreciate everybody joining me today. These are exciting times for battery metals and in particular for lithium. So let's get started here with the ACME presentation. So I'm not only just the president and CEO, I'm the founder as well. And I've had a varied career, almost 30 years in the resource sector. I worked on all 4 continents around the world, in mining, in energy, and in alternative energy, and in oil and gas. And I've had a long track record of developing projects such as ours. So again, really excited about what we've done here at ACME. We've had our running shoes on. It's been a very busy first couple of years, and I'm going to really enjoy presenting to you today as to why I founded this company. And really my investment thesis here in going forward was that we're in the right market. There's a huge tailwind behind us when it comes to lithium demand and ultimately where the EV revolution is going. And then we have the right address. We've got great projects that are located in regions where lithium has been produced historically. And there's only a handful of places in Canada and the US where lithium has been produced, and our projects are near those projects. And then I've had a track record of assembling very smart and capable people. So we've got the right people here to build this business. So again, we're in the right market. We've got the right address. We've got the right people to grow our business. For many of you who may not think about lithium, it's part of our daily lives. It's a soft, lightweight metal. And in fact, demand for it is growing dramatically. As you'll see by some of these macro figures I'm going to share on a few slides, we're just seeing unprecedented demand for this commodity. It's the price of lithium as well has gone up close to 500% in the last 12 months due to this demand. So we use it every day. It's in our cell phones, it's in our power tools, our laptops, our cameras, and most notably electric vehicles. It's also used in battery grid storage. So again, lithium is used in our daily lives and we take it for granted as to where it comes from. It's found in rocks and clays and in brines that are found underneath the ground. Again, a very important commodity, especially as we worry about the climate crisis and reducing emissions. Lithium really is going to be a part of this energy change that goes on in the green economy. A few things that are happening here in the world recently. Again, a number of investment banks have put out information about we're going to be in this perpetual deficit. There's a lack of supply compared to the demand for lithium. Again, projections are absolutely massive with battery metal growth and lithium growth. Huge investment is needed in this sector, and ACME is going to be one of those companies that's going to hopefully help develop a domestic supply in Canada and the US. Both federal governments in the United States and Canada are behind critical minerals. Biden's government has even called it not just a national economic issue, it's a national security issue. And so again, there's federal and at state level high degrees of a tailwind to ensure that we have critical minerals in Canada and the United States. So I'm going to move ahead a few slides here. Obviously, you can go to our website and review this presentation. There's some information here on the market size and so forth. So again, I'm going to move ahead here past some of these industry information. One thing that's particular about lithium that I will mention is that it's only produced in a handful of countries. It's produced mainly in China, in Australia, in China, or in Argentina, in Chile. And so, again, it's really important domestically in the US and Canada. And it goes for European countries as well, that they don't rely solely on a foreign supply of lithium. So, as a young company here at ACME, we've focused on projects in North America. The very first project that I acquired was in Fish Lake Valley in Nevada. The second project was in Clayton Valley, which really is the epicenter of lithium development in the United States. And then after researching many areas throughout the Western United States, as well as Canada, and I did look at some international projects, we ended up acquiring 2 projects in Southeast Manitoba. And I'm going to tell you why these projects are really important and are really exciting on a go-forward basis. A bit about Nevada. And again, as I mentioned, the region in around Clayton Valley is a really important area when it comes to lithium. It's about halfway between Reno and Las Vegas. Albemarle, a New York Stock Exchange company, about a $25 billion market cap, has a production facility at Silver Peak. It is the only place where lithium is produced in the United States, and they've been producing continuously there since 1966. It's quite shocking that there's only one place in the United States that's producing lithium. There's more projects coming on stream. Lithium Americas has a major project in northern Nevada. Schlumberger and Panasonic have a project where they're putting a pilot plant in that are near us, one of our neighbors. And again, we've got 2 projects in this Esmeralda County region of Nevada. We like Nevada. It's one of the top mining jurisdictions in the world. You can work there year round, 12 months of the year. There's infrastructure, roads, rail, lots of good talent in the state as well, and a long history of resource development going back, over 100 years. Good logistics, and in many cases, our team can sleep in their own beds at night. You're not in the jungle or in the Arctic. So again, Nevada is a great place for us to be working on these 2 projects. I'm going to move ahead here to our Clayton Valley project. And this really is our flagship project in the United States. As I mentioned, Albemarle has their Silver Peak facility where lithium has been produced for a number of decades. We are their northwest neighbor. A number of companies talk about being a neighbor and they're 30, 40 miles away. We are their northwest neighbor. So we've got great closology here. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be producing lithium. We have to make a discovery here and do more work. But again, we're in the right basin, the right type of reservoir here is our belief that we can have something similar or hopefully similar to what Albemarle has been producing from for a number of decades. We completed 2 phases of geophysics in the fall of 2021. Again, geophysics is a way of looking at the earth and understanding what's happening with the bedrock. This is a brine project, so we're looking for aquifers that are deep in the ground. Liquid can flow through gravels and sand as well. So we're looking at different readings in the rock to ultimately understand, do we have an aquifer and potentially a brine activity underneath this ground. So lithium is found in, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, in brine, in clay, and in rock. Most of the projects in Chile and Argentina are brine projects. There's very few brine projects in the United States. And one of the advantages of brine is you don't need to drill this like a pincushion. You need to drill a handful of really, in essence, water wells you then test and determine whether or not you have lithium of economic grade. So again, the capital costs here can be significantly lower than in early exploration than traditional mining. So this has been an exciting last 60 days. In June, we started drilling at our Clayton Valley project. We've completed that drilling now. And interesting enough, we found in that drilling, we have drilled into what is the same or similar formation to what we see within the whole valley. We saw brine increasing at about 850 feet, increasing in salinity. We were able to put casing down the hole and then ultimately do some downhole geophysics where we got some great readings. We took core samples throughout this drill program, as well as brine samples, and they are currently at the lab right now. We are waiting in results. So again, a very exciting time for us at ACME. I'm expecting results towards the end of August, and hopefully we will have made a major discovery. Again, this is a key catalyst for us going forward. We're crossing our fingers. Again, we don't know what grade of lithium we have. We're in the right basin, and hopefully we have made a discovery here, which is going to be one of only a handful of brine discoveries made in the United States in recent years. One thing that we're looking at, again, I think technology continues to change our world and how we look at things. What's interesting about brine is that a number of companies are investing in what's called direct lithium extraction. Historically, lithium had been produced in large brine ponds where the water was evaporated. And again, this new DLE process allows you to put brine water through a facility, again, a more lower cost and a sustainable technology. So again, much more environmentally friendly, potentially lower CapEx and OpEx. Again, a number of companies are working on this technology. We ultimately believe if we were to make a discovery, this is what we would use. We're evaluating and in dialogue with a number of these companies. And again, hopefully we'll have an update down the road. Moving to the west of Silver Peak, I'll go back a few slides here. If you look here, you'll see our Clayton Valley project on the right near Silver Peak. And then if you go over the foothills west of Silver Peak and our project in Clayton Valley, you'll see our Fish Lake Valley project. We doubled our footprint last year. And what's particularly interesting here is we've done some sampling here and found lithium in claystone. This ultimately would be a clay project. We've had decent grade here on surface. Only about 2.5 miles away is a world-class lithium project owned by an Australian company called Ioneer. They're close to $1 billion, $1.5 billion market cap. They're in late stages of feasibility and hope to be in production in a couple of years. Here in July, they've made some key announcements. Ford has signed an offtake agreement with Ioneer, and then now most recently in the last couple of days, Toyota and Panasonic have signed an offtake agreement. An offtake agreement is where a company agrees to buy lithium from you once it's in production. So we have a world-class project that is to our east. We're actually contiguous to their claims. Their mineral project actually extends to our border. We're in early exploration here. I actually have a geo that's on the ground there right now doing some reconnaissance work. We're evaluating this, hoping to do some geophysics sometimes in the fall of 2022, leading to hopefully a drilling decision sometime in later in 2022. So again, exciting movements here happening in this region, a lot of activity in Fish Lake Valley, and we'll advance this project over the next couple of quarters. Another area that I focused on was in southeastern Manitoba. And what was unique about southeastern Manitoba is there's a mine there called the Tanko mine. And it was bought by a large Chinese company a number of years ago. And it's the only place where lithium, cesium, and tantalum is produced in Canada. So again, here we are in the United States. Silver Peak, Albemarle's project is the only place where lithium is produced in the US. And then here in Canada, this is the only place where lithium is produced. So again, I started investigating the region, ultimately focused on two areas in and around the Tanko mine. You'll see on this slide in the central northern area here, the Tanko mine. They've been producing off and on here. It's hard rock. So again, they're producing ore, and in fact, putting it on rail cars, shipping it across Canada, putting it on a freighter, and then sending it to China for processing. They do plan to upgrade this facility. So we think it's really interesting. We're only a couple miles to the south with our Shatford Lake project. This is a large project area, and we announced in July that we've begun a major exploration program here. We've got lots of boots on the ground. This will be a very active summer for us in Manitoba, leading to a major drill program in the fall of 22. So some key catalysts coming up here in Manitoba. Really excited about this area. Lots of activity. I think there'll be a number of discoveries made in Manitoba over the next couple of years, and we're hoping to be one of the companies to do that. There have been 2 new battery factory announcements out of Canada, one in Western Ontario and another one recently in the Kingston area in Eastern Ontario. Two multi-billion-dollar battery factories are being built. So again, the key here for us is, can we produce domestic supply down the road for a Canadian market? We then have a project about 15 miles north of the Tanko mine, which is our Cat Lake project. We're working here in parallel. Again, our team is here on the ground, actively sampling, chip sampling, till sampling, soil sampling. We've done some airborne geophysics as well in parallel on both Shatford Lake and Cat Euclid. Major program happening this fall leading to drilling, or major program this summer leading to drilling in the fall. So very excited about what's happening here in Manitoba. A few highlights of our board. Again, I mentioned I have almost 30 years experience in all 4 continents in developing projects around the world. I've got a strong background in attracting strategic investors as well, and M&A activity. Yanis Titsos was with a large company called BHP for close to 19 years, was involved in over 300 transactions. Bill Fireman was involved in a number of lithium companies. He's written 43101 reports. He's based out of the southwestern United States and is very active in our company and advancing it. And then Matt Banta, hydrogeologist, exceptional guy who's managed our program in Clayton Valley as we're drilling brine. And Paul McQuiggan has a long history on all 4 continents working as a geologist. Again, these are just a few of the highlights of some of the people that have been working on our projects. So really interesting time for ACME Lithium. Again, massive opportunity here, multi-billion-dollar opportunity in the battery metals and lithium space. Huge growth expected over the next few years. And then we have regionally strong projects. In Nevada, we've got 2 core projects that are next to active lithium development and production. And we have active exploration programs ongoing as we speak. We're waiting on some key catalysts here, including results from Clayton Valley. And we've got geological targets as well that ultimately will assess here and make a decision going forward in Fish Lake Valley. Major program in Manitoba happening, again, in and around an existing lithium, cesium, and tantalum mine, making a drill decision this fall. So some key catalysts here ahead going forward in 2022. And as a result of my track record, as well as my team and the quality of our projects, I don't think there's a lithium company out there that has this kind of quality and portfolio of projects located in the United States and Canada. We've been able to attract some key capital from some investors like Lithium Royalty Corporation, World Talk Capital Advisors, and others institutionally. A number of mining funds have invested in us. We're well funded. We've got close to $12 million in the bank. This will be more than enough to meet all of our exploration needs in Nevada and in Manitoba in 2022 and heading into 2023. So again, really in good shape from a cash standpoint and in growing our business. As mentioned, we're listed on the CSE under ACME, on the OTCQB under ACLHF. Some particulars here about the background of our company from an administrative standpoint. And I want to thank you today for coming to listen to our presentation. Certainly, if you have any further questions and you don't want to ask them after this slideshow, you can reach out to me directly. Again, excited for you to come along with us as we grow our business.
Great presentation, Steve. We do have some questions for you. Excuse me. Let's start with Carrie Olson. Carrie asks, do you have any updates on the airborne geophysical survey that was conducted?
I assume you mean the airborne geophysical survey in Manitoba. No, it's still ongoing. There will be some processing once it's complete and some analysis by our team. Again, we expect it to be completed in the next few days. Analysis will take a few weeks, and hopefully I'll have an update on that airborne geophysics sometime towards the end of the summer or into September.
Great. Javier Cross says your assets jumped quarter over quarter. Cash is up 300%. Did you do a raise? And if so, what were the terms?
We've been very fortunate in that we've been able to attract capital. I did a capital raise in and around the middle of March, again, led by Lithium Royalty Corporation, Waratah, and a number of other mining funds. And then in May, based on our projects and getting a little more aggressive with our programs, I felt it was an opportunity to go back to some of our lead investors and raise some additional capital. So I was fortunate in that they liked what we're doing and liked the progress we were making and agreed to provide us some additional capital. So I closed in the springtime. I'd announced actually 4.2 million. It ended up being oversubscribed. This was during what was a very, very horrendous time in the marketplace. We were very fortunate to close $5.6 million in the spring. We already had money. And again, in my career, I felt it easier to raise money when you have money. We probably would have been in decent shape to complete our exploration programs this summer and early fall with the capital we had. This capital that we raised in the spring has now put us in a very, very strong position. I'm able to advance Fish Lake faster than I had planned. We're able to aggressively pursue our projects in Manitoba. So again, this was done at a combination of prices. There's what's called a flow-through financing that's done in Canada. It's a tax incentive financing that's usually done at a premium to market. And a number of flow-through funds in Canada participated, and that was a portion of the financing that I raised in the spring. It was at $1.50 Canadian, and then there was some straight equity that was done as part of that was completed at $1.08. So in a very, very difficult marketplace, we were able to complete that financing, and really that says a lot about the confidence our investors have in us and the quality of our projects. The equity markets have been hugely challenging over the last few weeks due to obviously a number of factors out of our control. And really my job here is to deploy the capital on behalf of our investors, continue to advance these projects, and hopefully we can deliver on some key catalysts here in the near term.
Great answer. Levi Pittman, excuse me, says, I see your property values jumped about 250%. Are these leased? Or they owned? Can you explain the structure there?
Property values. I'm not sure what Levi means by property values have jumped. Our market cap has increased recently after showing some weakness later in the spring and early summer, but we've started to rebound, which is good news. In many cases, these mineral claims are applied for with the Bureau of Land Management in the United States and then the provincial government in Manitoba. So you can go in and stake these claims and then file documentation. In other cases, we've acquired our projects from existing holders, whether they be private or other companies who have been holding these claims for a number of years, and we've acquired or optioned them. So there's a number of ways for us to acquire these mineral claims. There are annual payments that we have to make to maintain them in good standing. So I hope that answers Levi's question.
All right. Well, if that didn't, Levi, then ask and we'll put that into our question segment if we have time. All right. Preston Gill wants to know, is there a timeline to production that you can share?
Typical of these projects, the timeline can be fairly long. Our first step here is to make a discovery either in Nevada or in Manitoba. Once we have results, obviously we need to complete drilling in Manitoba, which we expect to take place in the fall, which will be phase one. We've announced our first drill hole in Clayton Valley, Nevada, and we're waiting on results here. If we were to get positive results, which we are hopeful for, we then would go into what's called a phase two and begin doing some additional drilling there, and then ultimately pump testing, water flow, and then coming up with an initial economic assessment as to whether we have a resource or not. Based on that resource, you then go to what's called a PEA, a preliminary economic assessment. Then you go into a pre-feasibility study and then a feasibility study. And then ultimately go through permitting and into production. So this process, which is absolutely normal and typical, can take anywhere to 3 to 7 years. But what we've seen in these types of projects, take example Lithium Americas, which began their project quite a number of years ago, and they are about to go into production, which I believe they'll go into production in the next year or so. They're now a multi-billion-dollar market cap company from a microcap. So really the opportunity here, and I'm not saying we're going to be a multi-billion-dollar market cap company one day. That's certainly a goal of ours. We're a microcap company. And so what we're seeking here is investors that want to stick around with us as we continue to grow and hopefully meet these catalysts. And hopefully our valuation will go along with us delivering on behalf of our shareholders. Again, there's things out of our control, but again, we hope to deliver here and utilize our capital appropriately and grow our business over time. But if we were to be in production, it would be in a number of years. The auto manufacturers and technology companies are already planning for 2025 to 2030 in their outlooks as to where they're going to get supplies. So again, there's active companies visiting projects on the ground around the world looking for a long-term supply of lithium.
Fantastic. Ryan Edward wants to know, who are some of the tech companies you're partnered with?
Tech companies. Well, I mean, certainly from a resource standpoint, there's a number of suppliers that we use, whether it be drilling companies, hydrology companies, geophysical companies. There's a handful that we use in Canada and the United States. If he means technology companies such as battery manufacturers, again, we don't have any joint ventures right now with regard to those types of companies, but there are some very top providers that do airborne geophysics, that do analytics for us, that we work with, that are very competent at what they do. Great.
Mike Ellis, he wants to know, you mentioned there was one company producing lithium in the U.S., and you were close to them. Is there a potential for a joint venture, or are you going at this on your own?
Well, Albemarle is, the largest producer of lithium in the world. Sometimes they switch from number one to number two. Again, they're a New York Stock Exchange company. And as our neighbor, it's hard to know really what their plans are going forward. We're just a little company next door. But they have a presence, and we know some of their people. Ultimately, I think we have to make a discovery to determine what our future holds. I don't know their full intentions as to what they would like to do. We're hopeful that maybe there's a possibility that if we are to make a discovery here and advance our project, that we can collaborate with them in some form. They have great people, they have know-how, and they obviously have the ability to sell lithium into a global marketplace. So we'll continue to advance conversations with them as we move forward. But again, hopefully we'll have some positive results here towards the end of August that we can deliver to our investors and potentially companies like Albemarle.
Great. Felix Barber says, you mentioned you're sitting on about 12 million in cash per your last filing. Is this enough to get you to production?
No, not nearly enough. We're in good shape from an exploration standpoint. Typically, these projects cost hundreds of millions, if not, $1 billion or $2 billion to ultimately go into production, depending upon scale. I mean, that's typical of this industry. What I've done in my career as a company starter and being involved in early stage companies is I attempt to de-risk these projects, develop them, and ultimately reach to a point where you can approach large global partners who have much deeper pockets, great know-how. And so my last copper gold project that I was involved with, Rio Tinto Kennecott, is now running. I've been involved in a number of M&A activities around the world. So my vision as CEO is to advance our projects over the next couple of years, de-risk them, get to a point where we have an economic resource, and then begin dialogue with global partners around the world, whether they be battery manufacturers, technology companies, large mining companies, auto manufacturers. There's a number of companies out there that are seeking world-class projects. So the goal here would be to continue to advance our project and then seek a much larger partner who we could joint venture with, or ultimately we could potentially be bought out down the road if we were to deliver on these milestones. Again, there's no guarantee this is going to happen, but certainly that would be one of the visions I would have, is to seek out a much larger partner to ultimately put this into production down the road.
And last question from Tom Bush. Where do you see production costs going? And when you get to that point, do you think labor will be an issue?
One of the good things about the state of Nevada is that there are some very talented people, and there's a fairly large workforce. We haven't had any labor issues. Job creation is certainly one of the boxes that I like to tick. And as we grow our business, we're hoping to continue to employ more people. The same in Manitoba. The economy and business there in general has been slow the last number of years. The local community there is very excited about potential work that we can provide in Manitoba. We work actually closely with the First Nations there as well. A large portion of our team in Manitoba is First Nations. We have to be very careful about our activity in our region. And again, we work in partnership with them, and we're fortunate to be able to employ a number of First Nations who have been excellent for us in Manitoba. And if anything, there's a huge demand for work, and we're hoping that we can continue to grow our business over time. We don't see any issue down the road in Nevada or in Manitoba from a labor standpoint.
That's great. All right, Steve, this has been a wonderful presentation. Would you like to have any closing remarks for our audience?
I just want to thank everybody for attending today and taking the time. Again, feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions. Anna, thank you for introducing me and allowing me to be part of this presentation today with your firm.
Great. Well, we look forward to having you back and hearing your updates. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Anna.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We'll be back in about 15 minutes, so we'll see you soon.